I talk an awful lot about my favorite superheroes throughout this channel, and primarily one of the ones that I mostly spotlight, and I'm sorry because I'm a fanboy, is Spider-Man. I'm sorry to say, but that's one of those big time superheroes that has inspired me for the years to come. I mean, from Peter Parker to Miles Morales to Ben Riley, I love Spider-Man. There's just something interesting about the I can relate to this guy concept that still interests me to this day. And despite their problems, I can still sit right there and say, I have been in one of those situations. But yet, there is a series I haven't seen in quite a while. Over 10 years I have seen this spectacular series. It is amazing, it's spectacular, it's ultimate, and it's probably one of the best written Spider Man series I have ever seen. And also well voice acted. And yet, here I am, as a dork, nearly almost forgetting that this series exists, truthfully. But that's because it's not bad, it's just because, it is good, but yet so many people just don't talk about it like they should, unfortunately. But, however, this channel is not for kids under the age of 13, so expect me to be swearing or making perverted jokes at this. But grab your web shooters and start swinging on because we are going to talk about one of the best series of Spider-Man you either have heard of or you have never heard of, and hopefully this gets people interested because the whole series is available on DVD. I'm talking about the one, the only. Green Geeks and Nerds, I'm Wade Universe, and I'm Wade Nerdy. Yep, we're going to be talking about, and I do not have the case next to me, just give me a moment. The Spectacular Spider-Man. I have picked this up at my thrift store for only $2. You can get 3 animated or children DVDs for $5. So I might have a Disney film that's an underrated Disney film that I talked about in my top 10 underrated superhero films, and I might do a review of it. Hint, hint, wink, wink. We'll see how everything goes. But in the meantime, Spectacular Spider-Man is one of those series that has appeared on, I think, Disney XD, the Disney Channel, and I believe for a short time, Jetix also had it. I'm not 100% certain on that. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But this is one of the best animated series ever, and it starred the great, the young, but iconic Josh Keaton as the voice of the Spectacular Spider-Man. And I know I can hear some of my fans going, yes, I see what you're doing here. But didn't Black Nerd Comedy do a video like this? Yes, Andre Meadows, aka Black Nerd Comedy, did do a video on this. But this is not the same thing. This is just me reviewing the first 1, 2, 3 episodes of Spectacular Spider-Man, so it's not necessarily ripping off Andre. I mean, I'm pretty sure if Andre sees this video, he won't care that a white nerd that's obsessed with Spider-Man because he's his favorite superhero talk about his favorite superhero. I'm pretty sure he could care less. So I'm gonna try to quickly go through these episodes to get you people interested. I'm not gonna sit right there and diagnose everything that's happening in the episode. It's just gonna be a quick play by play and just to go over through the episode just in general, we're just taking a look at the first three, and I hope that that gets you interested to check out the Spectacular Spider-Man series. The whole series on DVD and also Blu-ray, I believe, is available. The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Unlimited, and Spider-Man the Animated Series, as well as I think the 60 series, are not available on DVD, which I hope to do that because Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is my favorite animated series of Spider-Man. I hope to get that available in America. It is not available in America. It's only available overseas the last time I checked, and it kind of demands an outrageous price in a way. So, fingers crossed. I will probably at some point pick up the Spectacular Spider-Man, the whole animated series, and maybe do a whole episode, um, review or a whole series review. But in any case, let's start the review and let's check out what makes this series so spectacular as the title says. This is a Spectacular Spider-Man review. First of all, I just gotta say, I love how the series opens up with us already knowing who Spider Man is. You don't have to pussyfoot around it and tell his origin. We already know Spider Man is here. And according to Peter, this all happened to him while he was on summer vacation or summer break, and the first person that he runs into happens to be Sandman, who is being set up for a future villain. Very similar to the comic books, it opens up with Aunt May having financial trouble. This is something that happens in the comics after Uncle Ben had died, so the series already sets up that Uncle Ben is no longer with us and that he passed away. Also, one thing I respect and love the hell out of with this series is how they introduce the Spider-Man villains, that they all know each other, they all work together, and in some way or another, you know that they're going to be set up as the villains. Is this kind of, or these kind of little nice nods are what make it out to be a really damn impressive, or just impressive in general, of a animated series, as if it were, because here you have this universe already being set it up. You already know that Spider-Man is Spider-Man. You know that Peter Parker got bitten by the radioactive spider. So at a very nice pace, but nothing that distracts the children, is that it sweeps everything across the viewer's attention. Who Peter Parker is, that he already became Spider-Man, his origin story, setting up the villain for the future, and it's that nice nod that really makes it important to the viewer to not be sitting there and be bored out of their mind, because it just is a yes, thank you, speech impediment. Nicely done, little brush off to the side that makes it all the more, worthwhile. And what makes it even more better is that, you want to get past the story. And I think that the writers on this series kind of follow what Dan Lee said. Just quickly get the origin done and over with, and then you can have fun doing everything else. And I think that this series really we paid respect to Stan Lee in that way. The series also sets up the friendship and relationship between Harry Osborn and Peter Parker, and that Peter gets everything while Osborn gets basically the shit under the stick with his father. Until, Norman is taken by the Vulture, who is voiced by the iconic Robert Englund, something that I never knew, and he ends up getting in trouble with the Vulture as well as the Enforcers. And it's stuff like these that make Spider-Man more of an interesting villain, to kind of be like, okay, how would Peter Parker or Spider-Man really deal with these villains, especially the Enforcers, in this episode? Because Peter Parker is more Peter Parker than he is Spider-Man, he ends up finding his own unique way out of it in the most unique way possible, but that's because Peter is such a scientific genius. The episode doesn't end too dark, but it kind of ends off on a note that things are going to get better for Peter, but despite all that, he has some challenges ahead of his way that are going to stand in front of everything he wants to do. The second episode sets us up that Dr. Kirk Connors will become the Lizard in the future episodes, in the next episode, by the way, and they're all setting up that Mac Dillon is set up to become Electro, which he ends up doing in this episode. For fans of the Amazing Spider-Man, the origin story that they give Mac Dillon in this series is actually very much honored or replicated or whatever, excuse me, by having him become Electro, very similar to the way that Jimmy Fox became Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man film. So that is very much, ionized. But the thing is that what they didn't do was make Max a sympathetic character, and I thought that was a little bit of, disregard. I mean, you have this amazing voice talent voicing him, Crispin Freeman, who was one of my favorite, voice actors, and you're not exactly giving him the respect that he deserves. That you're not exactly preparing him for this amazing role. You just having him being set up, and then you just having him being transformed. He is kind of sympathetic in the way that he had to live with this deformity for the rest of his life, which is kind of a reference to people that have deformities that live in their everyday life. People that have like lost a limb, or they have a birth defect about them, where it's like, something has happened to them, or even, like soldiers or firefighters that have like skin graft surgery and whatnot. There is always something that makes us have, a certain, deformity in life. And I think that the episode tried to do that pretty quickly, rather. They kind of introduce Electro and then they take away Electro, rather, and they don't really want to focus on Mac Dillon all that much, which I think is kind of a shame, because I love Electro. He's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, and I think he's underutilized. And I love Jamie Foxx. I think that he did a great job with his performance in the Amazing Spider-Man, especially making him a sympathetic character. And as a guy that really does like Crispin Freeman, especially for his voice acting as well as in anime, I feel like he's a wasted talent throughout this episode. Right when the origin starts, they just basically introduce him, and it's like, boom, he's becoming Electro, he becoming bad, Electro bad, bad villain, he's going to be introduced as a villain. I do like the idea that Electro had this suit that he can wear to contain himself, but then unfortunately Spider-Man by accident whips open the suit and he causes Electro to go on a rampage. I will say this though, I love the form of Electro that they showed in here, something that's not quite human, but at the same time, just the perfect amount of inhuman qualities with humanistic qualities. I do really do love that about him. One thing I really do love about Electro in this series is that he doesn't blame Spider-Man for his deformity, he blames Dr. Kurt Connors. So he goes to Connors and he demands that Connors transforms him back to normal. I gotta say, I really do love the fight scene between Electro and Spider-Man on top of the radio tower. That just made a lot of sense, and it really gave me a real sense of how strong and how great Spider-Man can battle his opponents. Love how this series introduces one of Spider-Man's girlfriends, Liz Allen, who actually has feelings for him. She actually ends up calling him Petey, but then she ends up totally ignoring him and forgetting that he ever existed. Leaving, I hope. I don't think the series really established that Peter and Liz got into a relationship, but I have to feel for the guy when that happened. That was really like a cold-hearted bitch moment. Before the episode ends, we get a final cut down to Dr. Kurt Connors, who seems to be going through some trouble, and he has that lizard formula, so you know what that means. I love the opening to the third episode. I mean, look at this, the gritty colors that they're using, the fact that like everything is like dead and not alive or non-existent. It's a beautiful coloration. And since this film is based upon the Lizard, and the Lizard is always seen as a horror character for Spider-Man, I mean, really, he kind of is. I believe that Stan Lee had based the Lizard a little bit off of the Hulk, but the Hulk and Lizard do not change the same way with the Hulk. He has to become angry before he becomes the Hulk. With the Lizard, he has to inject the formula. But one thing I thought was smart with this series is that instead of just having Kurt Connor just be this type of guy where he has the arm missing, instead they do something that's modern. They give it a modern twist and have him have a prosthetic and mechanical arm, and I thought that was ingenious. I thought that that was really really cool because I have seen people and I know some people that have prosthetic limbs, so I thought that that was really cool in a way to honor these people who have prosthetic limbs like a leg or an arm, and I really did like that in this series. And noted how I said that this episode is horror themed. I really do mean that because the lizard is always, to me, it's seen as like a horror themed enemy. And really, the Amazing Spider-Man kind of got that across when he, transformed. It was almost, horror themed throughout the entire movie. And I know people don't like the Amazing Spider-Man. I don't care. I don't care. I don't give a fuck, bitches. I love the Amazing Spider-Man. I will say that Andrew Garfield isn't the best Peter Parker, but he is one hell of a funny Spider-Man, truthfully. That man can quip, in my opinion. And yes, I am excited for the last Tom Holland film that's going to, hint, hint, introduce Miles to the movie. And I am very excited. And Marvel, if you screw up Miles, I will eat your goddamn souls. Another thing I like about this episode too is that they show Peter Parker struggling to get a job. Something that was not very relevant in animated series, but this was very good to see, especially how we were trying to get into the Daily Bugle. And because of the serum, later that night, Kurt Connors experiences some pain, he experiences some problems, and then all of a sudden, straight the fuck out of nowhere, he regrows his limb. The good thing about the series is that they were like, oh, hey, Dr. Connor got his arm back. We can celebrate. So he ends up celebrating with everybody until his wife realizes something's wrong. And this is when Peter, Gwen Stacy, and Brock, and Eddie Brock try to figure out, how to cure him. But then this scene happens.
if you excuse me, I think I need to go and, you know, change my underwear, as it were. My pants have seemed to become very much darkened.
What in the holy mother of fuck just happened? I don't know, and I don't care. I tell you what, that transformation scene is probably the stuff of nightmares, but fuck it. It works. It's effective. It lets us know what Kurt Connors is. He's no longer a man, but instead a monster. It leads into a pretty interesting fight between the Lizard and Spider-Man, where even the Lizard proved that he can hold his own against Spider-Man, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. In fact, if you notice through the fight, Peter Parker or Spider-Man was wearing a brace, kind of, or a cast around his hand because that is how strong the Lizard was. He broke his hand. That actually, ended up happening. And one of the things that I love in this episode, which I'm not really going to show, is that they create a formula to try to get Dr. Connors back to normal, and it does, and yet it doesn't. It does end up working to the point where uh, I'm not gonna spoil it, but something ends up happening with Spider-Man, and it really kind of makes you think, like this kind of related aspect of him that I'll get into later when I talk about the series in full. But just keep that in mind what I'm saying, because some people might have forgotten that this was a scene in this, because it does actually happen in the comic books, and it's a very famous and very moving scene in here. I really believe the soul and heart of Josh Keaton in this, who really did a pretty good damn vocal performance. Even though he's just a voice actor, he really put all of his effort and love into, this character of Spider-Man, someone who I really believe that Josh Keaton probably does look up to and admire and everything. But then, he goes upon from grabbing the formula to moving into the everyday life. And keep in mind that Peter Parker is also trying to get a job as a photographer too, because that kind of bites him in the ass too, truthfully. So he follows the Lizard into, I believe it is the Central Park Zoo. I am only been to New York City once, but I've never been to Central Park Zoo. I think that's where Peter is. He's at the Central Park Zoo. So he follows Lizard there, and Lizard is, of course, at the Reptile House. And then, of course, at the Reptile House, it becomes even bigger of a horror movie scene where Spider-Man starts to wrestle a crocodile, and then straight behind the scenes, the Lizard was watching the whole thing. This turns out to be a pretty epic fight between Dr. Connors, Spider-Man, and also the crocodile that is already in the water, trying to kill the both of them, and it's really an impressive scene. But then they end up realizing that Dr. Connors had to be trapped somehow. They decide to use bait, but then it turns out for the worse once his son Billy gets involved, so Spider-Man had to save Billy while at the same time saving his father. Dr. Connors ended up becoming healed, but unfortunately everybody pissed off with Peter Parker because Peter ended up taking photos of the Lizard, so now people kind of know that Dr. Connors is, the Lizard, of course. There's a court turn for the worse when Peter is trying to talk everybody down, but unfortunately Peter is fired, so that means that he is out of a job, and that means that he is out of money. Which leads into the scene where Peter gets home and he starts recollecting that maybe becoming Spider-Man and being bit by that spider was a huge mistake. He wished that it never happened. And just that he's about to say, this was the best thing that ever happened to me, going back to normal, he looks at his picture of Uncle Ben and he realizes that he's not Spider-Man to be Spider-Man, he's doing it for Uncle Ben. Monologue is also a little kind of long too, so I can't really play it in video without doing 10-second cut, 10-second cut, which would kind of get annoying in a way. But it's a very beautiful speech by Josh Keaton, basically talking about I am Spider-Man, but was it a mistake to become this superhero? Because I can't become me. I have to be this other split persona or alias, and it's I can't just be what I want to be, and which is actually true, which makes you really feel for the character and everything. And I really would thought that was a beautiful speech, because there are a lot of kids out there, especially me as well, that go through that kind of thing, thought process of yeah, I'm really strange. Why can't I just be, what everybody else wants me to be, like be normal or whatever? And that's what everybody basically expects of people, which is kind of sad, but it also makes a whole lick of sense that, people are expecting you to, become this everyday normal kind of person instead of being strange. But strange is normal. You can be uncanny, bizarre, spectacular in your own unique way, and that's what the series we're trying to get across with Peter, that he is spectacular in his own way. So that was the first 3 episode review of the Spectacular Spider-Man. I really still love this series. I wish that I had more DVDs of this, or maybe, like I said, I'll check out the entire DVD as a total. Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? Hopefully that just gets people checking this out. And parents, hell yeah, this is a damn impressive series. It got some great voice actors. It has a very impressive animation style going for it. The stories are amazing, and it's broken down so children and young adults, like teenagers, can understand it. So I would really recommend it to um, people very, very much so. This is a really great and impressive Spider-Man series. So if you're a Spider-Man fan, yeah, check this one out, man. Do not let it become obscure and obsolete. Check out the Spectacular Spider-Man. You will not be disappointed. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join me at Twitter with the link in the description down below. And remember, I've been Lead Universe. I've been White and Nudie. Keep geeking on. Check out the Spectacular Spider-Man. And I'll see you guys next time.